everyone, thank you for tuning into Team Forbidden's YouTube page. It is I, Seto-sama the Fanatic, back with the quick update for WarGreymon. This is a deck that I've been putting out there for a little while, just due to laziness, to be quite honest. Record with this deck, I got top 4 with the Store Championship during EX4 format. I got first place at the first Store Championship this year with Card Addiction with this deck. And then I got second place with it at the second Store Tournament at 3J's. Only losing to Manny and his Alphamon deck because he saw his full line and I was missing a couple of my pieces. For the protection purposes. It happens. It's card games. That's what happens. Alphamon finally got its revenge on Omnimon, but this deck is still great, even though it doesn't have any new cards until BT14 in a couple of months. Arguably, you can even include the stuff from the Black Starter deck that's coming out, but it's still absolutely fantastic, and you can go red or black based with it. The red base for most people is arguably better. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this Store Championship winning deck for Raid WarGreymon. So, first things first, we're starting off with the Digi-Eggs. 4 Koromon from BT5. Arguably, this is the best Koromon. You can run the one from BT9 if you want. The DP boost is always helpful, but if you have all your pieces, like you have the MetalGreymon X and the Raid WarGreymon, there's not gonna be much more DP boosting that you really need. Plus, you're gonna have the 1000 DP boosts from the tie every single turn, and if you run the Yuya, which you should be running the Yuya with this deck for the security control matchup, you're gonna get an additional 2000 and stuff off of option cards. Honestly, I think this Koromon is the better one of the two for this deck. And again, I'm emphasizing for this deck. You can argue that it's the best Koromon in the game by far. So, for BT5 Koromon, you can run a 5th egg if you like, but I don't think it's necessary. If you were to run a 5th egg, I would recommend probably Greymon. If you wanted to run a 5th egg for the additional, for the other one, for the one from BT9, my recommendation if you were to run that egg instead is to run 4 of the BT9 and 1 Koromon from the first starter deck, because it's easy to get DP boosts. It's easy to get 4 more sources to make, with all the X antibody cards, to make that one live. Alright, into the Agumon army. First up, we have, of course, 4 copies of the Agumon from BT12. No ifs, ands, or buts. This is the best Agumon in the game by far. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Add a Digimon card with Greymon or Omnimon in its name to your hand, and 1 Tamer card with Taikamiya in its name from them to your hand. The only way this card could have been better is if it was any 2 versions of that card, like Huckmon, or if it was top 5. I don't know when we're getting the Alt-Art promo for it, but this one is fantastic. During the Store Championship, I used the Silver Medal winner version of this particular Agumon card, but I'm opting to run 4 copies of the Agumon from BT5, which is on play, search top 3 for a Greymon and an Omnimon, and add 2 of those to Greymon and or Omnimon and put them into your hand. Except for all the other ones that aren't supposed to be Greymon, that they didn't change the name for. I don't know why they didn't change the name. But, yeah, a lot of people like to use this slot for the promo Agumon, which will probably eventually become the Agumon from BT14 that will digivolve into Greymon for free at the start of your turn if you have a Taikamiya on board. But for now, I still say this is the second best base Agumon in the game. Well, okay, aside from the black one that, searches for Greymon and Dragonkin. But sometimes you're not able to go off of that one and do stuff with it. So I valued consistency above anything else for this deck, which is why I have basically every single rookie is an on-play search. So the last 4 that we're running is Agumon X Antibody. These 2 don't have an inheritable. This one is 1000 DP boost all turns. As long as it's under there, that thing has an additional 1000 power. And Agumon X. Agumon X is Agumon X. It's top 3 cards, add a card with Greymon or Omnimon in its name, and 1 X antibody. Meaning the X antibody option card. Everyone keeps getting that wrong for some reason. I don't know how they keep getting that wrong. It doesn't say X antibody name. It's just X antibody. It's good. So you just play this or play this, Digivolve this on top of that, draw a card, and get an additional searches. So that's the Agumon army. All Agumons. For Greymons, I'm opting to do something a lot of players aren't doing. I see a lot of people only running a couple copies of this card. I'm running a full playset. A lot of people are only running 2 of this card. Another card that you probably could consider is the Greymon from EX1 that has the inheritable. I mean, you get to play 2 ties off of the Raid MetalGreymon, so that's pretty good. But I really value the all turns plus 1000 DP boost, because that can really matter in a bunch of situations. So if you get to play the tie off of it, it's great. Otherwise, you still have the 1000 DP boost. And I'm prioritizing this over plus security attack. That may... I know a lot of people probably don't agree with that, but I really value the DP boost for double blocker in Raid. So, to finish off the Greymons, I'm running 2 copies of Greymon from BT5. I'll be blunt with you guys. My first draft of the deck was 4 of the security attack MetalGreymon here, and then 2 of this one. I eventually wound up going with 4 of this for the all turns DP boost, and 2 copies of this card. Main reason for that is he's a potential 1 evolution. Because you Digivolve from 2, and then if you've got Agumon, you gain a memory back. Sometimes this combined with the Greymon X's and your tie Tamers can make it so you can go straight up into your ultimate when you should only have been able to go, you know, into your champion level and maybe past turn. This thing changes all of that. And speaking of the Greymon X's, we're running 3 copies of this Greymon X. Might try to find an excuse to bump it up to 4, but I'm not entirely sure what I would cut. That's the main issue. And then only 1 copy of this Greymon X, because we can only have the 1. Moving on. Next up, we have 4 copies of the card that is single-handedly responsible for getting that last card limited. Or restricted, rather, is the proper term. So, 4 copies of Raid MetalGreymon. I believe we touched on this in the first Raid WarGreymon deck profile. It raids into your opponent's Digimon with the highest active Digimon with the highest DP. If you change your attack target, or if your attack target is changed, you get to play a 4 cost or less red or black Tamer for free. Main combo is you go into the Greymon X on evolution and play the Yuya, and boom, you have a 13 plus Digimon with security attack plus 1, and your opponent's option cards completely cannot affect it at all. We're running 1 copy of the MetalGreymon Alteris mode. I did see a couple copies in Japan actually running the EX. Speaking of EX1, the EX1 MetalGreymon is actually also a pretty good contender to be put, kind of like a 5th copy of this, except it only works for WarGreymon, because, you know, it only works for Dragon Cannon Machine, because that's Machine Dramon support for some reason. But this one works for Greymon or Omnimon for the piercing stuff. And then 3 copies of MetalGreymon X. You can make an argument that it should be 4 and 4, but it's basically interchangeable. You need to run 4 of this one just because it's a 1-cost evolution off of this. 1-cost Evos are busted. When green does it, nobody bats an eye. When any other color does it, oh no, panic! Alright, next up, we have the 6s. We have 2 copies of Raid WarGreymon. This is arguably the best WarGreymon in the game. No contest. Until the Warp Digivolving one comes out in BT14 at least. So, Digivolves usually from any black for level 5 for 4, but it Digivolves from 3 for any Digimon with MetalGreymon in name. That includes Alteris mode and X Antibody. Then it raids into an opponent's Digimon, and on Digivolving gets plus 3000 DP and reboot. So again, if you Digivolve that on top of this, after it Digivolved this turn, because the security attack plus 1 and the 3000 DP still happens, this is going to be at least 18 with raid and 2 checks per swing. And of course, when an attack target is changed, you unsuspend him once per turn. Makes him a double blocker. And to go with these 2 WarGreymons, we've got 2 WarGreymon X Antibodies. Basically more board control and more memory to pass your turn. Or to keep your turn from passing to your opponent. And it's another thing that you can Digivolve into when raiding with MetalGreymon. So, things not big enough? Okay. Let's raid. Do I have the X Antibody? Not the metal. Okay, let's just go for the war and deal with 2 bodies on the board. If I've got X Antibody when I'm swinging. Now, in my first version of the deck, you guys might remember that I was running 3 of this. I decided for the first store championship that I needed some additional Tamer hate for the Hunters matchup that also basically was still a double blocker. Black WarGreymon decks basically have the philosophy of they run 2 Black WarGreymon, 2 Black WarGreymon X, and then 2 WarGreymon X or 2 WarGreymon raid for board control raiding into stuff. I got to figuring, it's like, okay, if it works that way, it should work the other way too. And my God, it worked. This card is still really, really, really good. And it's also a double blocker, because when it deletes a Digimon in battle, it unsuspends. Or when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, it unsuspends. So, I figured this gave me some additional Tamer hate, as well as having the 2 of them together, double blocker. One of my favorite cards in the game. And into our 7s, we are running 1 Omnimon and 1 BT10 Omnimon X. Not really much else that gets to say from here. Gives you like 6 or 7 checks depending on what you do with the raid WarGreymon. If you have the whole line with the X Antibody, you'll basically go raid war, attack twice with war. If they have 5 security, you attack twice with war. Then Omnimon comes up, unsuspend, swing, Digivolve into Omni X for 1, and then you trash your opponent's last security and you win the game. So yeah, that's the other major reason why I'm not running the security attack Greymon, is because if I have the whole bit that goes up into this, it just wasn't necessary. Alright, finally, into the Tamers. We're running the 3 copies of BT12 Taikamiya. You probably should be running 4, but I just couldn't find the room. I felt like having 2 of the memory setter was just a lot more necessary. Not to mention it just makes the games go faster, and of course the 1 Yuya. The Yuya Kuga for the Greymon combo that we mentioned earlier. No Cool Boy, because Cool Boy whiffs half your stuff. 3 copies of X Antibody, speaking of Cool Boy. I see a lot of people only running 2. I really like seeing this card, so that's why I'm running 3. 2 copies of Red Memory Boost, because, again, consistency, consistency, consistency. And 2 copies of Hades Force, top 4 stamp, because I won them from the tournaments. Not sure how I dropped the 1 tournament and got top 4, but I'm not going to complain. So yeah, that's the current update for Raid WarGreymon. It's a really fun deck. It's one of my favorite decks in this game. It's arguably the best version that it's been. I could try going a little more aggressive, more toolbox, more Omnimon heavy, but that's basically it, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell down below for notifications, and we will catch you guys later.